Hello, everyone. Thank you so much and welcome back. I love this quote by C.S. Lewis, and he says that God created people and things that have free will. So that means that creatures can go right or they can go wrong. I love that quote, and it really I was reminded of that quote this weekend when I saw a gentleman that I had worked with about 8 years ago. I was out at a restaurant very casually. In the corner of my eye, I saw this man. I know it was the same person, looked a little bit older, but the same individual. And all these memories came flooding back to me. I don't know if you saw me or not. His mother was actually insistent. He was about 23 at the time. His mother was insistent that he would come and come in and talk and try to work through some of his problems and issues. To make a long story short, this young man, I don't know where he's at now in terms of what he's doing with his life. But at the time, he was really off into some very destructive things. Okay. I was not a mother at the time where I sat with him. And I often, I sat and thought this past weekend, being a mother now, would my approach with him or, my, what I shared with his mother, would that change? And I probed my spirit, my soul, and I don't think so. I don't think that my opinion would have changed. Now, back to the story, he was into some very destructive things, some very destructive relationships with people, some activities in his life that could have easily landed him in less than desirable places, such as perhaps even jail, taken to the extreme. Yet she was insistent. She was absolutely insistent that he come in. She was looking for a miracle, wanted him to turn his life around. And something profound, at least profound for me, it was kind of like a light bulb that went off. And it was around the third session, and sitting with him. And, we're kind of going over some stuff, and he looked at me a very lucid, very clear, and he said, "Sheila, this is what you need to understand. I'm basically here because I'm being forced to be here. The things that I'm doing, let me tell you what I love about it. Let me tell you why I'm not going to stop. I'll come here twice a month or what have you. But let me explain why I'm not going to stop." And he went on uninterrupted, which I did not interrupt, to explain his why he loved, had a zest for, a zeal for, and a passion for what he was doing, albeit destructive. And he knew that. He knew that. But the bottom line was, I love it. I love every moment. I love all of what I'm doing. And again, he was very clear in his thinking. And what he was expressing to me, and what he had been expressing to his mother for a very long time, was something called free will. Free will. Now, that very day, I picked up the phone, I called his mother, I said, "Listen, I can no longer accept your money because a couple things. He is exercising his free will. This is what he wants to do. He's doing it with his eyes wide open. And I can tell you, my heart breaks for you. I can only imagine the sleepless nights that you are having. And I cannot tell you to stop loving him, caring for him, trying to get him help. But what I'm going to say is, I cannot accept uh, your money. And this is not a person who wants in any remote way to change what he is doing." Now, I share that with you because many of you you could listen to this message from a couple of different vantage points. The vantage point of, there's someone in my life I want and I need them to stop what they're doing and they won't and I can't control it. Or you may be a person who is living out a certain aspect of your evolution that a lot of people disagree with. So I'm share the message from a couple different vantage points. And what I will say is this: everyone, doesn't matter, including myself, it doesn't matter how you feel about it. And we all have our thoughts and opinions. And certainly, I'm very sensitive. Being a parent now, I'm sensitive to, my goodness, what wouldn't we do for our children? How far wouldn't we go to ensure that they're safe and have the best life possible? Now, here's the curveball. Even our children, there's at a point in time, they have free will and they will rise up, um, and exercise it. And sometimes you'll be in agreement with it. Sometimes you'll be opposed to it. So my message is a reminder of this, of the the soul's journey. There are things, I firmly believe, that people come here, back up, that souls come here to experience. There are things that they actually very specifically came to experience. And you can talk and you can lecture. It could be a parent, it could be a friend, it's a coworker, whatever the case may be. You can lecture, and if their soul must experience it and they're moving into a certain direction, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, for you to stop it. And that's because that experience is exclusive to them. And I also want to say that there are many things, I've experienced this for myself. I have certainly experienced this for myself. Was a family member who was making some decisions that just seemed so erratic and destructive to me, and I didn't get any rest in my soul until I was able to really back up. So I was able to back up because I had sounded the alarms. I talked, I spoke, I wrote letters. You may want to look at this a different way. And they were adamant about it. And I didn't get any rest in my soul until I backed up and said, you know what? There are things about this person's sojourn in their journey. This is a lesson that they are choosing. And they are choosing that lesson through their free will. And I watched the situation completely blow up. I watched it. I tried to be as supportive and comforting as I can. But what I also witnessed the exponential maturity and growth that came as an offshoot of that situation. I'm not sure how the maturity and growth would have come about were it not for this cataclysmic circumstance. So there are things, you may not understand it, you may not like it, that people are going to do. It may drive you up a wall. But the thing to really keep in mind is people are out here with a free will and choices. And I would say specifically to parents, we those of you who are parents, you have the children for a certain amount of time. You impart the lessons. I have a child, a small child, and I'm as much as a joy watching her grow, but I'm seeing the struggles that she has, even being young, coming of age, the lessons that she's learning. I have a certain window of time. I hope, pray God, I'll always be a positive influence in her life. But there's a certain window of time before she can actually legally exercise her will on her own, whatever the case may be. And you hope that all you impart, you hope that the lessons, everything that you impart from your heart, your soul, your own experience, you hope that it rises up into good judgment, into that space of good judgment. Sometimes it happens, sometimes it does not. But it is important to understand that outside of you, people are here, people that you love dearly, they are here to experience They are here to experience for themselves. And there's certain things that you can see on your sojourn at one point that you couldn't see before. I could tell you, I was in a it was not a healthy relationship. It was not positive in any way. And I had people sharing things with me. And to tell you God's honest truth, I could not see it. It was just not a part of my experience. I couldn't see it. I didn't want to see it. And I made my decision to go full throttle. Was it a disaster? Yes, it was. But I'll tell you what, the exponential learning that put me on such a learning curve, the confidence that came, the clarity that came after through that pain, suffering, humiliating experience, that was individual. And the people who cared about me, who I pretty sure could see clearly, could see things in a way that I couldn't, they had to stand by and watch it. They had to stand by and watch it. There was no choice. And I could tell you beyond a shadow of a doubt, is nothing that anyone could have done or said that would have made a difference. I was living out my sojourn. I was living out a destiny which brought me to this point. Had I not had so much pain, hurt, what have you. It's been an interesting journey. Certainly some beautiful parts, certainly some highlights, but the sum total brought me here today. This is the voice that you hear. This is why the passion that you see and you hear, burnt brass. It is the voice of knowing, of confidence, because I lived it, and I would not be able to take full ownership had I not had those experiences. And many people were, up in arms, what have you, but I needed to live it out for my specific purpose. So it's something to think about. I'm not saying give up on the people you love I'm not saying stop praying. I'm not saying stop loving them. If you want to continue to talk, certainly you must be led by your higher self and your creator. Be led. But I'm here to remind you that people are on a sojourn, the soul's journey, and there are things that you're going to see and that you don't understand, but they're working through their contract and the reason they're supposed to be here. So we have to keep that in mind so we can temper some of that tension that can sprout up when you're just trying to, get someone turned around. So this is something to think about. I hope it's made a difference, and I'll catch up with you soon.